Well, hey fans, welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk Spoilers, and today we're talking spoilers for WandaVision. Now, it's been, almost a year and a half since we were blessed with WandaVision by Marvel Studios. It was the first MCU streaming show for Disney Plus, and they did a really good job with the weekly breakdown of episodes and just making it very interesting and appealing. I remember we got the first few episodes as screeners when it came out, and I used to tell everybody, "Oh, wait till you get to," I think it was, we got the first three episodes. I said, "Wait till you get to the end of episode three, you're gonna find out exactly what's going on in this town." But it was enjoyable bringing her back for this show, and it really does explain a lot about her backstory. I really love how they go into her past in Sokovia. We get to see her and Pietro when they were kids and her dad, and that backstory really explains why the show is designed the way it is. And they don't really go into that until I think the last episode, because her dad, there was some kind of civil war in Sokovia. So her dad, whenever he come home from work, it's dangerous, people are fighting outside, he'd bring them American TV shows to watch on VHS. One, to help them work on their American accents, because it seems like eventually he wanted to get them taken to America, and two, because they were fun to watch. So they watched stuff like Malcolm in the Middle, Leave It to Beaver, whatever he could get his hands on. And overall, I thoroughly enjoyed the show. I gave it a 4.4 out of 5 over on the website. Go over and check out my full review. But there were a lot of things we learned about Wanda in this. So when she first appears in Avengers Age of Ultron, actually, I think they appear at the end, technically, in the stinger for Captain America the Winter Soldier. But they are Hydra experiments. They were experimenting with, at the time they didn't know, the Mind Stone to see if they could get powers to appear in humans. And most of the test subjects died except for Wanda and Pietro, the twins. And they were able to do this by having them in the MCU because Wanda and Pietro first appeared in an Avengers comic before they appeared in an X-Men comic. So, both Disney and Fox at the time had the rights to these characters. But Fox had the rights to the word mutant, so Disney couldn't say that they were mutants. They could say they called them miracles. So they just basically made them superpowered human beings. So when Agatha is talking to her and they're going through this flashback, we find out when they put her in the room with the scepter, the Mind Stone pops out and she gets some kind of glimpse of her future, and then she passes out, and of course that's what awakened her powers. And according to Agatha, it's so you were always a witch. So she doesn't have I don't know if she has powers. Maybe the telepathy and telekinetic abilities are her powers that the Mind Stone gave her, but she always had witchcraft in her blood, and the Mind Stone also enhanced that. And they don't really make the distinction if her witchcraft is separate from her powers or she's a witch with powers, because I guess technically being a witch is just harnessing magic, but being a mutant is different. So you can be a mutant and a witch, just like you could be an Atlantean and a mutant. You can have both. They don't cancel each other out, but they don't really explain that. So Agatha says the Mind Stone enhanced your latent witch abilities, and also when they were kids, when that Stark shell dropped on their apartment and didn't explode, she said it didn't explode because you didn't want it to explode. You used your witchcraft to save you and your brother, which I thought was a neat scene, and it was very emotional. What they don't show is how Pietro got his super speed powers. Is it that he wasn't a witch, but the Mind Stone gave him super speed powers? It would have been great to have Aaron Taylor Johnson appear in, even if a small cameo, in the flashback scene to show him get his powers as well, just to see what the Mind Stone showed him, or just how it actually works. But that was great. So we find out that yeah, she has witch powers, and the thing about like all the characters are all stuck in this town. It turns out at the end that it is like Scarlet Witch actually caused this. Monica Rambeau, who is the daughter of Maria Rambeau in Captain Marvel, she appears as a sword agent. She gets sucked into the town when she goes to meet Jimmy Woo from the Ant-Man series about what's going on here. The town has just disappeared, and she becomes a part of this world. And then when Wanda realizes she's not supposed to be there, she kicks her out. And they kind of make it seem like you being in there for a while has made your body weird. And when she tries to go back in, if you go back in, we're not sure what's going to happen to you. So she forces her way into the Hex later on in the series, and somehow she gets her photon powers. They don't really explain it, so she can think Wanda's reality altering powers cause her to get powers. It's interesting. Oh, and another thing about Wanda, I'm going to be all over the place because it's been a while since I've seen this, but I really wanted to talk about it. Like, Wanda goes back and forth between her American and her Sokovian accent. And in the film, she starts with, like, that Sokovian accent. Then she starts to have an American accent. And they're like, well, did she just give up as an actress? And maybe she did. But they explain that in this film with the whole, her watching those old TV shows with her family. So when she was in Sokovia, of course she's going to have a Sokovian accent. When she's in America, she's going to try her best to sound American. So they explain that very well. Whenever she gets agitated, she reverts to her Sokovian accent, which was, I thought, very great. Very great that they did that. But Wanda also, like in her grief, she creates this version of Vision. Basically, the Mind Stone, which connects to both of them, because her powers were enhanced by the Mind Stone. The Mind Stone aspect of Vision comes out of her, and she makes a Vision, basically Vision's soul, into reality. He has some of his memories, but he's a little bit cloudy on the rest. And that whole aspect of the show is great. There's like a great episode, because we think, well, did she just bring Vision back to life? But there's like a part where he like tries to leave the Hex, and we see that he can't. He's dying. It's like ripping him back into pieces. And when Wanda realizes this, she like increases the diameter of the Hex to save his life and all this other stuff. And it's great, like how she can control like everything in the entire town, like magic on autopilot is what Agatha called it. She's that powerful, and she didn't even know it. But that was great. And speaking of Vision, how Sword got his body and was able to dismantle it was in Wakanda. So unless the Avengers brought it back from Wakanda and then gave it to Sword, that still sounds weird. Because it's made out of vibranium that was stolen from Wakanda. Like, I don't understand why it wasn't kept in Wakanda or at the Avengers compound. That never made sense to me. They don't really explain how they got the body. They just have it, and I think it's just a little bit of loose writing there. But like I said, Paul Bettany's great as Vision. He actually comes back later in the series as White Vision, which is where they rebuild Vision's body, although they can't cut him on because they don't have the energy to like power him on, and every power source they try doesn't work, which is strange because like I'm pretty sure they could find some kind of arc reactor somewhere that should have worked. I don't know why they didn't do that, but for some reason he's white and they want to use him as their own weapon, and they try, and he's actually just as powerful as the regular Vision, even though he doesn't have the Mind Stone. And that might be just because the way Ultron built the body. He's human tissue mixed with vibranium, and yeah, it's surprising they put them back together. It was pretty awesome, actually. And the fight he has with Vision is pretty cool. It's like a typical Marvel fight where they have the exact same powers, but the way it ends is even better with a discussion of the ship of Theseus. And I really like that ploy because it's like, this is how intelligent people fight. But he convinces him that they're both, because he's sent there to kill, like, Vision. And he's like, but we're both Vision, so you can't kill me. But he basically tells him, is like, I have all the memories. You have all the hardware, but I can unlock your memories in there. So like he like taps his head, unlocks all the data and all the memories that Vision had when he was alive, and he's like, I am Vision. He just flies off. We still have not gotten an answer to why he just flew off. Why didn't he go find Wanda and be like, I remember now? But the prevailing theory is that even though he has all of like his original memories as Vision, he does not have the emotions attached to those memories. So it's like he can watch in his head that he was in love with Wanda, but he doesn't feel like he was in love with Wanda. So he'd have to somehow get that back, and maybe he's just going to think about it. What I thought was going to happen is that Wanda's created Vision was going to fuse with the old Vision body, and that was going to bring him back to life. And I still think that was probably a better idea, and that would allow him to exist outside the Hex if he was able to fuse with her. And later down the line, they might do that with her powers. She might be able to put Vision's soul in White Vision's body to make him fully complete again. So that would be great to see. Her kids appear in it, born via Immaculate Conception, I guess, because I don't even know if Vision has a penis or whatever, or how that works. But, and they have the powers of magic and, like, quick, and, like, speed, like her and Quicksilver. And considering that she basically created the children, I think she bestowed those powers on them. Um, One of the funnest aspects of the series was Evan Peters appearing as Quicksilver, because we all know he played Quicksilver in the X-Men universe, in the prequel films at least. And everybody's like, all right, this is our first venture into the multiverse. She's bringing him over out of the X-Men universe, which would have been great. They should have just made it like Wanda snatched him over and she broke the multiverse by doing so. But instead, it was a joke, and it was Agatha Harkness bewitching some normal human with super speed and making him pretend like he was her brother. And in her grief, she just went along with it anyway. So it was fine. He was good in the role, but I think it really should have just been her really snatching him over from the multiverse or something like that, and not a fietro, as Agatha called it. And like I said, I'm going to be all over the place. Kat Dennings is back as Darcy Lewis from the Thor films. We haven't seen her since Thor: The Dark World. She was great in the show. I loved her. I can't wait to see her come back. Her chemistry with Jimmy Woo was just fun to see. And I think the prevailing show people wanted to like spin off from WandaVision was like Darcy and Jimmy Woo, like an X-Files type show where they're just traveling around the MCU solving mysteries. And that would be a great show. Like Marvel should still do that. Like the Woo Files, I think they wanted to call it, something like that. And even if they're shorts, like 10-minute things on Disney Plus, that would be great. Or before films, it would be fun to see. Now on to Agatha Harkness, portrayed by Kathryn Hahn, the standout of the show. Just very enjoyable, both in her witch and normal human form. She was the only person in the Hex that seemed to kind of understand what was going on, but at the same time playing into it. She was so much enjoyed. She's getting her own spin-off, Agatha House of Harkness, which I don't really understand how that's gonna work. And part of me is like, is it really like a secret? Like, this is basically WandaVision season 2, because at the end of the show, when she has her fight with Agatha, like she traps her in like her own miniature hex in her Westview form. So we don't really know, like, does she still have her memories? Is she just pretending? Like, what's going on with that? How's that show gonna work? We will see. But like Agatha All Along, it's a banger. It was a great song. I listened to it so many times. Like dun 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 dun. Who's that pulling every evil string? It was Agatha all along. I really like that show. That song. I really like that song. But it doesn't really make sense because it wasn't Agatha all along. It was Wanda all along. Like that, you find that out at the end. Like Agatha was just like passing through, and she's like, "Is that magic I smell?" And she goes into the hex and finds out. So it's a banger, even though the song doesn't really make sense. The final battle, it's just okay. It's just a bunch of witches doing like big magic back at each other. They don't do any awesome, cool spells. Just really throwing energy balls and sucking energy out of each other. But during that final scene, the greatest thing happened when she pretty much absorbs all of her power back from Agatha. Wanda gets her classic Scarlet Witch outfit. Finally, it's not just red; she has the crown, and it's actually like a physical crown. Earlier in the season, or like the episode before the last episode, they were showing like the witches had like these energy crowns. I was like, okay, they're just gonna give her like an energy crown. They're not gonna give her the physical one from the comics and the cartoons. But nope, they gave her a physical one. It starts out as energy and then forms as a physical crown. Um, but just overall, it was a very enjoyable show. The different openings they did for each episode, spanning a different era of television, from Leave It to Beaver to Malcolm in the Middle to Growing Pains, Roseanne, the costumes. It was all great. It was enjoyable. And I always thought, like, they could do a season 2 of WandaVision, even though everything was wrapped up at the end. You can call it WandaVision, the lost episodes, meaning like there were episodes of WandaVision we did not get to see. And in terms of the MCU, there are clues in these episodes. Like Wanda has to revisit these episodes to figure out, wait, who is actually, like somebody else, like Kang, were pulling even more strings. So we go into these lost episodes, like some kind of time travel adventure, to find out, well, what exactly is going on here. So I'm sure, pretty sure they could work it out if they wanted to. I don't think they will, but yeah. Um, but I pretty much, I mean, that covers it. Great acting, a lot of cameos, not as much as people would have liked, but that is it for me, guys. Remember, you can view this spoiler review on YouTube and the blog, flipfrogllc.com/flixfrog. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Reddit. And please, pretty please, everybody, hey, come here, listen. Make sure that you subscribe. Yes, subscribe to the YouTube channel, the Facebook page, everything. Make sure you like, comment, and share. The next Let's Talk Spoilers will be Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. I'm super excited to see that. I'm actually going to see it here in a few hours. Can't wait. And until next time, I'll be seeing you.